Hey everybody, it's Cheryl and welcome back to Technique of the Week. It's week 18 and this week we're going to talk about watercolor quilts. So this is a pretty traditional technique. You've probably seen books or blog posts or any kind of other things that are about this technique. I had never tried this before, so I wanted to give it a try. I had inherited a little box full of 1-inch squares. 1.5-inch squares. And I could have sewn them all together individually with lots of little seams, but that's not how this technique is done. What you do is you get a piece of interfacing that has fusible on it, and you lay your squares down in a grid. Now there's special interfacing that you can buy that actually has the grid printed on it, and then you just need to add the squares. So I didn't have that, but I did have these, I did have interfacing, regular interfacing that was the same weight. And I also had this lovely box of squares. So I picked out some little squares that had varying bits of pattern and also different values, and then laid that out on the grid and ironed them all down. And then what you do is you take that fabric and you fold it where the two pieces of fabric come together, and then you sew a 1/4-inch seam. And then you do all of them one way, and then you do all of them the other way, and then you've got your grid. And now the trick to this technique is to put something in the foreground, whether it's a garden gate or some sort of, landscape type thing. And in this case, I chose to use an octopus because that's the, easy design for me. So this is what I came up with. And so here's the pieces of the octopus that I fused down. So that's got fusible on the back, and I just ironed it down. And then I went to quilt this, and that's where I found what's difficult about this particular process. These seams inside here, because they have the interfacing on them, makes the seams really thick. So it was really difficult to quilt. On top of that, I had these sections that had been fused down, and that was just one more layer on top of already this bulk inside this quilt. So it was a very bulky thing to quilt, and I think that I broke a couple of needles on this one. There's a really nasty thread nest on the back, and what can I say, right? And all in all, I thought it turned out okay. It wasn't my favorite technique, but actually my husband really likes this one. So it's all about, the effect on the viewer and what you're trying to get. So this is one more art quilt technique that you can try that maybe you haven't tried yet. So give this one a shot. You never know. And don't forget to follow along on my blog at www.muffin.com. You can also click subscribe and get all of these videos in your newsfeed. And you can also go to my website and get the entire 52 Technique of the Week checklist by subscribing to my newsletter. So go ahead and check that out. And thanks, and I will see you again next week.